We're here today with Michelle Spencer, and she is a real estate attorney. Today we're going to talk about everything sellers need to know about using a real estate attorney for their sale.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for coming.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. One of the things we find as representing sellers on homes is guiding them with an attorney who's going to see them through and talk to them, and communication is such a great skill, and we're so grateful that we have you on a part of our team to do that with our sellers. So give us some insight.
Well, thank you for having me. Sometimes you get that question, well, from a seller's perspective, why do you need to have a real estate attorney? And in New Jersey, on both sides of the transaction, it's recommended that you have an attorney representing you to review the contract, review the title search, and help you get to the closing table. When it comes to our office representing the seller's attorney, we'll review the contract to ourselves and with the seller to discuss any terms and conditions that are in the contract that the seller needs to be aware of. Make sure that we'll also make changes and revisions to the contract to make sure that the seller's got certain protections with claims, whether during the closing process as well as after closing. Also making sure that there's sufficient deposit monies that are posted for the closing, and that cause for concern if any breach of contract would happen. We'll cover all of those revisions and changes in the attorney review process. We'll discuss everything with the seller, make sure that the contract is written as the seller intends it to be, and then negotiate with the buyer's attorney to make sure that we come to a meeting of the minds on the contract, and then everybody will sign off on those revisions and changes, and we'll be out of attorney review.
Wonderful.
Typically in New Jersey, the seller's attorney is the one that holds the deposit money as well. And something that I think our clients ask about a lot is like what exactly is deposit money? So I think like the earnest money is the first initial deposit that is given just to show, just so that you have good faith deposit, so that you have skin in the game, so to speak. And then additional money will probably be brought to closing to cover the rest of the cash that actually goes into the home purchase. Yes. That's all part of the contract that we write up. So next thing that I think everybody has to work on is getting the title for the home. So
Correct.
Tell us more about that.
With the title, it's usually the buyer's attorney's responsibility to order and initiate the title search, and when that comes in, it's shared with the seller's attorney. We'll review that with the seller for any encumbrances on the title to make sure that there aren't any issues, clouds on title as we call them, that will need to get satisfied in order to get to the closing table. Also, that'll come up in the title search is, are there any mortgages already on the property? Or are there any other types of liens that are on the property that those will need to be satisfied, whether by a payoff statement and getting paid at the closing table, so we can give clear title to the buyer at closing.
That's something good to be aware of, just in case if you're representing a parent in an estate or something like that. Sometimes they might have taken a mortgage or an equity line of credit or something like that you're not aware of as the child. So when you have an estate situation, it's important to have those attorneys looking out for who all needs to be paid at the end of the transaction.
And it's also not a bad idea, if you know that you're going to be listing your property for sale, to maybe kind of do a preliminary search. You could even just do a judgment search on yourself and the property in advance, so the seller has a better understanding of what they're going to have to deal with when it gets to the closing time. Sometimes things can be remedied fairly easily. Sometimes time isn't of the essence and it takes a while. And if you've got a short window for closing, then you need to be mindful of that too. So.
That's part of our job collectively, is to make sure that there's no surprises at the end, because nobody likes surprises.
So true.
So the final step is basically closing. So how does that work for the sellers?
Correct. Well, when we get the title search in, there'll be requirements and conditions of what the seller's closing documents are, and those are going to be certain documents that need to be prepared, specifically the deed, which is what the formal instrument that's going to transfer title from the seller to the new buyer. So all of those documents will be signed, and usually in advance, from the seller and brought to the closing table, and then at that point there'll be a settlement statement that the parties will There'll be a settlement statement that will recapture all of the accounting of the transaction, and it'll say the different things that are going to get paid off, different fees and such that are collected, and then eventually the bottom net proceeds will be dispersed to the seller.
Okay, perfect.
And now what we're seeing, a big trend is a lot of times the sellers don't come to the closing.
Correct.
It's quite different from when I
Yes,
started
from
in
many
real
years ago.
estate. Yeah.
For some reason, in recent times, and it's become more of a sorry.
Commonplace.
Thank you. I was
Commonplace,
trying to think
yeah.
of why, because I didn't want to say those words. In recent times, it's more common for the seller to sign all of their closing documents in advance. We usually, either you come to the seller's attorney's office and sign them, or we facilitate a by mail closing. Sometimes the sellers have moved on already, maybe to a different state or such. So we'll do an overnight mailing to get those documents signed in front of a notary, and they return them to us, and then we'll deliver them to the closing table, and then the proceeds will be sent on thereafter by check or by wire, depending on how the seller chooses.
Wow. It has certainly changed. It made it a lot easier, but also a lot more things to cover, which is why it is so important to have a good team of people surrounding you, especially your attorney, because you're selling one of the major assets in your life, and you want to make sure that you're going to get everything that you're entitled to, and as well as for your buyer, that they're going to get a title free and clear.
Correct.
So, and communication, that's the other thing, between the attorneys, the realtors, it's so important that this becomes such a part of the process, because we need everybody to be able to understand what's happening on the
What's
other
going on
side.
there. Yes.
Okay, thanks for watching, and if you're interested in finding out some more information, please feel free to contact Michelle Spencer or Darcy or myself. I can be reached at 973-615-3960.
My number is 973-907-6042. And Michelle?
Okay. You can reach me at Michelle Spencer, and it's mspencer@cqclaw.com, or 973-808-1234.